Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. It may contain strong language and adult themes. So, I don't have the internet hooked up in my apartment yet. It's been delayed a bit, so I'm still broadcasting from Sloth Girls, and right now trying to do this on my laptop. So responses may be slow. This computer is being rather sluggish about things. My brain is also being rather sluggish. I had twice wandered into the kitchen and forgot what I was trying to do, and so on the third attempt I finally managed to remember that I was trying to get some tea, but the electric tea kettle seems to be a technology that was a little too advanced for me to deal with this morning. So anyway, let's see, Amiga Nuts and Doc, hi. How are you guys holding up? We've got lots of things around here are closing, and insane people doing the ridiculous things like hoarding all the toilet paper. The bottled water I can remotely understand. Not that it really makes sense because I don't see the city tap water being shut off, but okay. The toilet paper doesn't make any sense at all. Oh, hi, Robert. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow my brain did not boot properly this morning. It seems to be kind of an odd morning for all of us. Petunia, Sloth Girl's kitty, is kind of reverted to bitch mode, and she's been really good since the move, and the cats have been getting along really well, and just today she is randomly attacking him. I don't know what's going on.
Hello.
Hi, Kate. How are you doing?
I'm a little bit grouchy. You can see I have my green screen set up. Well, my video camera, my webcam will not stop doing the thing where the video is running really fast and the audio is normal. I was all set to make a video and now I can't, and I don't know why. How about you? How are you doing?
Just saying that my brain just didn't seem to boot properly this morning, so just kind of sluggish, and the electric tea kettle was a technology too advanced for me to deal with.
I've heard of this brain thing, but yeah. What's a brain?
They seem to be in very short supply recently, I've noticed.
I agree.
Yeah, there was a thing yesterday. I went to the store. I need to pick up some more eye drops, and two of the employees trying to stock the shelves. This guy was saying that this whole Cordova virus thing was a government conspiracy.
Wait a minute. You mean it's not?
Yeah, well, he was saying, well, look how quick that it is that they took away our right to eat out because all the restaurants are closing. It's like, well, first of all, the government's not forcing the restaurants to close. It's the CDC is recommending it, but that's still up to the corporations.
Well, I'll tell you this, it's not the government that's preventing me from eating out, it's being single.
Yeah. But I mean, even if the government was, in this case, it's like people faced with a potentially life-threatening situation have already proven that a significant amount of the population will not behave rationally or listen to the authorities.
Yeah, I I encountered a video just today looking for something to respond to. Pastor Greg Locke, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, he is saying that his church is remaining very open. He's not scared of corona, blah, 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 blah. And honestly, well, if he wants to hoist himself by his own petard, more power to you, except, you'll probably have your congregation infecting other people.
Yeah. I wonder if it'd be interesting to, see if that does. Oh, what was the term they were using? Like, a cluster of infection. If it's all the people that attend his church wind up having like a 50% infection rate.
Well, I mean, what you gonna do, right? You can't. I mean, unless martial law is implemented, you really can't stop these people. Not really.
Yeah. Well, especially the churches. I mean, even the government's afraid to, make any laws against, make any kind of regulations on the churches.
Yeah. Well, the government's always been a bit pansy-like when it comes to church.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the whole tax exempt status, whether they engage in religious charity or not. It's like, you guys should have to pay taxes unless you give us a good reason not to.
Yeah, I agree. And, especially the property taxes, considering the amount of real estate some of the churches own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, in any event, I am self-quarantining at this moment. My only real worry is running out of toilet paper, because the store shelves are bare of toilet paper. And there's just nothing you can do about it. There's no napkins, there's no handy wipes, nothing. And I mean, granted, I don't need a lot, but I'm going to need some eventually. I might be able to last a week or two and then done.
Yeah, that's the same thing here, or that, I'm a little concerned about it. Fortunately, I managed to get a pack just before this whole mess started, so we got enough for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've got like 8 or 9 rolls right now, but those people going around who bought like 144 rolls at once, screwing over the rest of us.
Yeah, people going out of the stores with entire pallets. Just, what are you going to do with all that stuff?
I mean, unless you have a family of 8, or your diet consists almost entirely of chili with beans.
Yeah, and it's not like, it might make sense if potentially diarrhea was one of the symptoms of the disease if you caught it.
I understand it's not.
No, it's not related.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking about, like, what do I do if I run out and the stores are still empty? And, I realize I have a bunch of empty notebooks.
Yeah, well, that's what they used to do, actually.
Although, there is another option.
Yep.
I mean, you want to talk about holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah, actually, there was an interesting video I was watching, a channel called The History Guy. And just because of the current situation, he did one on the history of toilet paper. And saying that less than 100 years ago, Americans refused to buy the stuff.
Really?
And one of the reasons that people wouldn't buy toilet paper was things like the Sears Roebuck catalog were free.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So, yeah, people would use catalogs or newspapers, and they just didn't see the point in buying toilet paper.
The problem that I see with that is I have not encountered any paper, including newspaper, that didn't sort of wrinkle to points if you didn't keep it completely flat. It would be a bit spiky, a bit scrapey.
Yeah, if you try to bunch it up, you're likely to scratch something.
So, I mean, gosh, that's so weird.
Well, that's why I think it was Northern, one of the leading brands, like up into the 1930s, advertised it as being splinter-free.
Well, I went to the store yesterday because I was running out of some stuff I desperately needed. And they had implemented a rule now where only a certain number of people are allowed in the store at once.
Oh, really?
Like there was this big long line outside the store to get in.
I haven't seen that yet. Some of the stores around here are implementing what they call seniors hours, which is usually like for the first 2 hours that the store is open, they're only letting seniors in so they can, get in and get what they need and be at less risk.
Well, I think that's just unfair. I mean, it's not like responsible spending will be done by high school students, or is that not the kind of senior you meant?
Yeah, I don't think that's what they meant.
Yeah, well, let me. But, well, I mean, it's not like I go out a lot anyway. So, I mean, I'm going to miss my game nights. But what can you do?
Yeah, well, that is one of the reasons why I needed to move back to a decent sized city. Is it is kind of a relaxing thing for me to, if I don't have anything I really need to do, I just kind of wander aimlessly through, like Home Depot type stores. We've got Menards here, which is a chain similar to Home Depot. I just wander through and just look at the tools and just looking at the different stuff they have. And sometimes I just get ideas for projects that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone to stores and looked at the tools and also the things they were buying.
Yeah.
But
so you go to Walmart a lot.
Actually, I don't. I don't know where the nearest Walmart is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to Target a couple of times, but not Walmart.
Yeah,
which stinks. I'd actually like to take some pictures and video of the Walmartians.
Yeah. Walmartians, that's a term I haven't heard.
Really?
I've seen several videos on the people of Walmart.
I actually encountered it a couple of months ago for the first time, and I could not stop using it forever after.
Yeah, I think I'm going to wind up using that, and I'm sure Sloth Girl's going to jump on that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure at some point, maybe not in San Diego, actually, but I'm sure at some point everyone's going to be bunkered up and the streets will be empty. And, part of me just wants to wander around in that empty city. I know I would get in trouble for it, but I would love to just walk around when the streets are empty.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's, I'm very nocturnal, and that's part of the reason.
I just think it would feel like a zombie apocalypse movie or something. That's all. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually looking at a report, I guess it was today or yesterday, where California is now, I don't know if they're buying or just renting a bunch of hotels and stuff for the homeless to shelter them during the coronavirus. And much as I respect Jimmy Dore, I think he had it wrong where he was going, oh, now they're housing the homeless. I get the impression he's going, they needed a crisis to care. And it wouldn't shock me to discover actually that these plans had been in place all along, but a bunch of people were blocking them. And it took the crisis to get those people to shut the hell up so it could be implemented. That's me playing devil's advocate. But I think that Jimmy Dore's assertion that they weren't going to do this until the crisis hit might not have been accurate. It might be. But, benefit of the doubt time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can see your scenario makes a lot of sense that, a lot of people in the government thought this was a good idea years ago, and it took this to get enough people to vote for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, maybe I just want to think the best of people, or maybe I don't. I don't know which. There's a lot of times where I think most of the world is pretty scummy, actually. Selfish and xenophobic, and yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the odd things I've noticed now, because the recommendation that people should keep 6 feet apart, is there are some people who still have the reflex to hold the door open, and then people won't walk through the door because they'll get too close to them.
Well, I mean, okay, forgetting about the coronavirus for a second, I've held the door open for complete strangers at stores because, they were leaving and I was
Yeah,
going in and I figured I'd and they've given me these like sometimes perplexed and sometimes actually resentful looks like, what the hell's your agenda, buddy, holding the door open for me? I'm
oh,
like, what? I'm being polite over here. What the hell?
I haven't run into that
Bizarre.
reaction, but yeah, it's especially if I see somebody's moving kind of slow because you know, I I have arthritis. It affects my knees some days. So some days I'm walking pretty stiff myself.
So you're saying you
So
have the elderly pirate disease? Arthritis.
yeah.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, except that I've had it since my early 20s, so yeah, it is a stereotype that arthritis is an elderly disease. The second most common form frequently occurs in teenagers.
Hmm. Well, I have to wonder, like, why is it always the hip that old people are breaking?
I think that's just kind of the dynamics of, how you fall. That's either you land on your butt, which is padded, and you'll be okay. But if you land sideways, there isn't enough padding, so it'll break something.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I took judo when I was like in elementary school, but I usually know how to take a landing without damaging myself.
Yeah, I've fallen off of roofs at least a half dozen times. Never
Yeah, I'm
actually broke anything that way.
starting to think maybe you should stay off roofs. You might not be good at it.
Look, I'd rather not do it, but got to do whatever people will pay me for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Actually,
I'm just
the
being
last time that happened was really funny
hmm?
because of the that was when I was in New York. I actually fell off. I fell about 15 feet onto an asphalt parking lot, and with my shins right across one of those concrete stops, and my leg twisted through the ladder. So it's like I could barely walk.
It
And
sounds like an old slapstick movie.
yeah, it probably would have looked that way if anybody else was there. But one of my cats apparently was concerned I wasn't going to be able to feed myself, so he brought me 11 mice in 2 days.
Oh, I'm always fond of telling the story about when my parents and I lived out in the country, and our cat was a vicious hunter. And one day she had somehow managed to, completely unseen, mind you, kill a rabbit, drag it into the house, up the stairs, into my room, and under the bed.
Yep, I've heard you tell that story.
Yeah, it's just like, and even when we moved into the suburbs, she was always leaving birds and mice on the front step. So,
Yeah, yeah. Guapo was always bringing things in. On one occasion, I came in to find a live bird in my bedroom. So
yeah.
that was fun trying to get the panicking bird caught in a wastebasket so I could get it outside.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I sometimes wish I could let my kitties out, but right now I'm in the middle of a city and
Yeah,
I don't know how they do. Mind you, there are some people in my complex, which is surrounded by a big old wall, who just let their cats out. But their cat seems content to just lie in front of their door, whereas my cats are the rambunctious sort. Columbia loves to explore, and Xander's 4 months old, so he's just full of energy.
hmm. So how's it going with the new kitty? Are they getting along?
I mean, yes and no. They like Columbia doesn't want to murder Xander anymore, which is good. And they've actually she's approached him for a sniffing, and a cheek rubbing and all of that,
Okay.
which is definitely progress. But at the
Yep.
same time, like I say, Xander's 4 months old and he keeps wanting to roughhouse like Columbia's a kitten, and she's having none of it.
Yeah. Kind of have that problem getting Petunia and Sammy-san to live together, because Petunia's kind of a bully and just likes to randomly jump on his back. Since the move, she hasn't done much of that. They're doing a lot better. So I guess being locked up together in the car for a day and a half was kind of, force them to deal with each other.
Well, I mean, I've seen Xander do the thing where he gets down and he's like moving his ass and he's about to pounce, that sort of thing. And I'm like, I know Columbia is around that particular door and I know what he's about to attempt. And I've had to stop it, stop him doing that in his tracks far too many times.
There we go. I like a Mega Nuts solution. Let the kitties do the shopping and ban the people.
But kitties are people. Now, if you mean ban the humans, okay. But I've long been an advocate for the expansion of the definition of the word person. If there's a distinct personality, then I'm seeing a person. Like ants really aren't people, but cats, even dogs, as much as I dislike dogs, are definitely people.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I've tried to make the same thing of actually distinctions of there being, people and humans as a species.
Well, I mean, I keep thinking like if aliens ever encountered us and we're like, wait, person only means you guys? Nah, we're out of here.
Well, and I've even questioned about, if we encountered aliens, sentient beings from another world, I think people would still wind up referring to them as being human, as the more colloquial definition of that, seems to be the way people behave rather than the species. So then do we have to start making a distinction between the Terrans and the other humans?
I have a hard time believing. I've never heard anyone advocate calling extraterrestrials humans. I've never heard that before.
In Star Trek, it's used a lot.
Is it? I mean, I've watched a lot of Star Trek. I don't remember that ever being done.
Well, the most classic moment was, what was it, Star Trek 4, that, Kirk was saying Spock was more human than anyone else he'd ever met.
Well, I mean, but that probably refers to behavior more than anything else. But most of the Trek I've watched has been like from Next Gen on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't recall them saying it on the show.
Okay, I don't remember if they really used it in Next Gen or not. Actually, I didn't see much Trek beyond, like the first season of DS9. I never got into DS9 or Voyager much.
See, I really like Voyager, and despite the theme song, I like Enterprise. Deep Space Nine, on the other hand, I probably would have liked it a lot more if it weren't for the Ferengi. I find the Ferengi deeply annoying.
Yeah, well, the Ferengi were designed to be annoying, but I think they overdid it. I did like Enterprise. Of course, the one scene I would have really liked to see them do in Next Gen or DS9 is I would have loved to see a negotiation between the Ferengi and like the grandson of Harry Mudd.
Is that actually a character, or are you just saying that'd be cool?
No, Harry Mudd was a character from the original series.
I mean, his grandson. Is that a character?
No, he was never mentioned in the later series, but...
Well, one thing I would really love to see is a Star Trek show not centered around Starfleet. In fact, not centered around the agents of any government whatsoever, but more like a, say, private cargo hauler or a smuggler like Han Solo, or a fence like Harry Mudd, or any of that stuff. Obviously, Han Solo is not from Trek. But, I mean, I want to see that kind of character where they encounter Starfleet, they encounter Klingon military vessels, but they themselves are not of either one. Just to see what normal everyday life is like in the Trekverse.
Yeah,
Now, mind
that
you,
would
they
have
might
been
be doing that
interesting.
on Picard for all I know, but I haven't been watching it. So
That would have been interesting to see, something more of the private citizens, and that Starfleet still was really a military organization.
that has always bothered me is the idea that, like, yeah, we're explorers and we're all sciencey, right up until someone starts attacking folks, and then we're the military. Seems to me the military and science ought to be separate branches. Like maybe an explorer ship has a military ship companion, like a wingman kind of thing for protection. And that would open up whole bunches of character drama where, the eggheads and the jarheads don't like each other kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that could open up so much potential if they would separate the military and the science.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see something akin to, like, Doctors Without Borders, that, just some private medical group that if there's a problem, they don't have a problem crossing the neutral zone and helping the Romulans or whoever.
Yeah. I just got this horrible, like if you got a problem, yo, we'll solve it. Call the Federation. I don't know. I was going somewhere horrible with that, but yeah. I would be probably terrible at rap battles. I'm not sure I can make all that stuff up on the fly.
Yeah, I just don't like rap enough to do that.
Well, I've often said I don't like rap, but what I realize is I don't like gangsta rap. There was a time when rap wasn't quite so grouchy,
Yeah.
And
that's true. Some of it is more fun, but
like late 80s, early 90s rap. We're talking Tone Loc and MC Hammer here. I was into that, before it was all life ain't nothing but bitches and money, pop a cap in your ass and all that shit. That's when I started to check out of rap.
I was never really into it, but yeah, it didn't bother me. Like you say, like MC Hammer, I mean, if somebody was listening to that, it didn't bother me. Whereas the new rap, I, actually try to avoid.
Yeah, well, it just sounds so angry to me. It sounds so aggressive.
Yeah.
And I'm not into that. I'm just not. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm not into death metal, for that matter. I like hair metal. I like a lot of other metal, but that, like, loud, growly, can't understand the lyrics, and wow, I kind of want to beat someone up or kill myself kind of metal is not, no, thank you, no. It's kind of the way there's a lot of music out there. Weirdly, like I mentioned this back in December, the less religious a Christmas song is, the happier the tune, the more upbeat the tune. The more religious it is, the more it's in like a minor key and it sounds horrible. Like in that sort of, like, the mood it puts me in is more like let's raise Cthulhu than it is let's open presents. You know what I mean?
It's like those miserable psalms. They're so depressing.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, whenever I hear, for example, the Carol of the Bells, I always feel like it ought to be part of a Tim Burton movie. I hate Tim Burton, but even so, it sounds like we're about to summon some horrible spirit. It's not happy music in any way, and I don't care for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I, kind of thinking of some of the more religious Christmas songs, and yeah, I definitely see that the pattern fits.
Yeah, there's like one or two, like I think Ode to Joy is fairly religious, and that's a much happier tune, but it's like the exception that illuminates the rule.
I wonder if that has anything to do with, the way they tried to overlay Christmas on the pagan holidays. So, then the Christians had to make it a thing that, the songs were about God needs to protect us from the pagan demons kind of thing.
Wow. I wouldn't know about that.
Because if you're enjoying Christmas too much, obviously there's something wrong with you.
One side benefit of having like my dad was raised Catholic, but he said, screw that crap. But we still celebrate Christmas. I like to call it Giftmas because of all the presents and the fact that I don't have any religious connection to Christmas whatsoever. But my mom's side of the family is culturally Jewish, which means basically like, we have Hanukkah and a giant meal for Passover, and that's it. And all of the religion is stripped out of it entirely. But that means that I would get 2 sets of presents. There'd be the Giftmas presents and the Hanukkah presents. So that was a side benefit. Of course, there was a tiny drawback to that because my birthday is also in December. So here's your birthday and Christmas present.
Yeah, I always thought that must suck to have your birthday too close to a major holiday like that.
Well, a major gift-giving holiday anyway.
Yeah.
My cousin Jesse, my poor cousin Jesse, was born on Christmas. I remember once there was this big Christmas family gathering, and it wasn't until like 2 p.m. that someone went, "Oh, by the way, Jesse, happy birthday." It was like, oh man, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, that my ex was born in the first week of January, and even for her, that was too close. And people still did that thing of the combined birthday and get, birthday and Christmas present. And it's like, yeah, you're just, cheaping out on the present there. It's not like they spent twice as much on her as they did on other people or anything.
Yeah. Of course, I bunch of years ago got the worst birthday present ever, and that would be the death of Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah.
That was a terrible, terrible birthday present right there. I wasn't able to return it. It didn't come with a receipt.
You sure you couldn't, find somebody in the pagan community who couldn't, raise him from the dead?
Yeah, most of the pagans I know are just the sort to sit naked in their living room with a candle.
Okay, I've been known to do that, but I think that's beside the point.
Well, okay, one of my exes who called herself Wiccan did that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, I was pagan for about 25 years, so.
And Maya, I mean, like, grim doesn't necessarily equal depressing, I agree, except my subjective, visceral reaction to grim is that it's depressing. So for me...
Yeah, I don't even know if it's necessarily Tim Burton, but I think all of his movies that I've seen have been based on the Ronald Dahl books. I wonder if he did something based on an author with a more upbeat tone.
What the hell? My webcam has been being a little bitch the last couple of days, and it's very annoying.
Yeah, your icon just got replaced with a picture of a webcam with a red X across it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, when I came in, I was trying to make a video, and it did not go well.
Yeah, that sucks when you're, in that mental state and you're ready to do a project and your equipment won't cooperate with you.
Well, I mean, not just a mental state. I have my green screen up, which is a giant pain in the ass. So, I mean, seriously, setting up that green screen is so annoying. There are times I just plain don't want to do it, and I make the video without it, but still.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that, that must be a lot more involved. I haven't actually had to do it myself, so... but yeah, getting that prepped and because I know just getting any kind of anything cleared for a reasonable background.
I'm wondering whether it's the webcam itself or if it's the USB ports, because like I can feel the or the USB connection. Like it's really loose.
Hmm. Well, if it's only the webcam, though, maybe could it be the plug on the webcam that's a bit loose?
Yeah, it's possible. I do need a new webcam. Like I've been getting a lot of weird artifacting from this webcam. Like every now and then there'll be this little on the screen of garbage, and I've ruined a lot of takes because of that.
Hey, Nerdy. Nerdy's asking if all the states in America are mental states.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to jump off there. I can understand your frustration with having to do the retakes.
Yeah. Oh, what a pain in the ass. Come on.
I did have a problem with one of the actually it was the USB port on my stereo, because it'll take a USB stick to play MP3s. And I had a problem with the outer grounding shield becoming loose. And I was able to poke in there with a really small screwdriver and just kind of bend the outer shield in a little bit to get things to sit tighter.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that would work on your computer without looking at it, but
I don't know. Come on. I wonder what'll happen if I try to fire up my actual webcam program that I use to record video. Well, that's working. I might have to refresh my browser.
yeah, the other thing that if you're still having a problem with it, you might check about reinstalling the USB drivers on your computer.
Maybe, I don't know, but I think the webcam itself might be broken. I'll be right back. I'm going to refresh this and see if it works.
Okay. Yeah, be mindful about the toilet paper. When I was in Menards the other day, yeah, that was quick.
Hey, there we go. That was handy.
Yep. Be mindful with saying that the stores sell out within hours.
Of webcams?
No, I think he's talking about the toilet paper.
Oh.
And when I was in Menards the other day, I heard one of the employees saying that, yeah, as soon as it came off the truck, there was a line of people following the pallet to where they opened up the cases in the display area. And it's like 10 minutes from taking it off the truck, they were sold out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have not seen fights yet. People have been strangely civil about all of this, but everything's still off the shelves completely.
Yeah.
But I've heard of fights in other places, like literal fist fights over toilet paper.
Sloth Girl observed one last week.
All of this is so surreal.
Yeah. That two women were actually taking swings at each other over who got the last 4-pack of toilet paper. Yeah, it's just, people. And I mean, if you're going to hoard something, at least make it something more valuable. It's like, what are you going to do with all this toilet paper?
Well, what really knocked
it's
me
not
out,
even practical to profiteer off of it because it's so bulky and takes up so much space.
well, I mean, what really knocked me out was everyone took all the toilet paper, but the orange juice aisle was all but untouched. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I want vitamin C a hell of a lot more than an efficient way to wipe my ass.
Yeah, well, around here, some of the stores, it's like almost everything's picked. Last week, I couldn't buy any cheese.
Wow, cheese is not the
just the whole
first
dairy
place my
case was
brain went.
emptied out.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
It's weird
I
what people
suppose
are
maybe for some
prioritizing.
people, if they're running out of toilet paper, if they eat enough cheese, then they'll get constipated and they won't need the toilet paper, huh?
Well, that's a possibility, sure. I don't know. I've just got lots of cereal, lots of milk, lots of OJ, bit of meat, although a lot of meat is going away now. I managed to get one of the last packs of bacon. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I didn't want to panic. I didn't want to be doing any of this, but because everyone else panicked, if I want to eat, I had to act like I was panicking.
Yeah, unfortunately, it reaches that point that, being sensible will put you at a disadvantage of not having anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a pain in the butt. But as I say, it is kind of surreal. In a way, I'm reminded of how I felt immediately after 9/11. Like, I remember riding the bus home from work because they sent us all home from work after the planes hit. And I was just like, wow, this doesn't feel real. This feels like something off of television. You know, and now here we have, like, I've seen, oh, by the way, the movie Outbreak is trending on Netflix, and I've watched movies like that and, but never experienced it in real life. And now I am, and it's just strange to me. And there is this one hair that will not stop going in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. The other odd thing, I guess people around here finally realize that they're not the only ones that have to poop.
Yeah.
So I've now found that I can't buy cat litter anymore. Not really a problem. I've got an extra jug in the closet, so they're good for a month. But
oh yeah, I have some. Like, when I got Xander, I figured I ought to go out and buy some kitty litter, some extra. So we'll be good for that.
Yeah.
The Plague game on what? The Plague game on Steam. I mean, there's a couple of different games. There's one, like, I think it's Plague Incorporated. Maybe that's the one that's meant by Nerdy Rodent there. Like, I've played the board game version of that, and I think it was originally a board game.
Well, I don't do computer games much, but I played the board game Pandemic.
Maybe that's, I don't know. Pandemic, the board game. Yeah, I've played that one too.
It's spawned a lot of spin-offs.
But, well, I mean, because there's one where you're fighting the virus, and I think that's Pandemic. But there's one where you are the virus, and I'm pretty sure that's Plague Incorporated.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one. I haven't played it.
I'm surprised they haven't jacked up the price on Pandemic here on Steam, just because, people are probably going to want it.
Yeah. Well, Pandemic's interesting just because it's one of the games that you can play cooperatively, that it's kind of like everybody playing as a team against the deck.
I think that one's Pandemic.
Yep. So, that's...
Yeah. Well, I was playing that.
For some of the people that I was gaming with, it was nice to have some things that were less competitive.
Well, I was playing that game at board game night like a couple of months ago, and we were 3 moves away from, but there was no way we could win because we couldn't get to this we needed to get to fast enough. So we ended up not saving the world.
Yeah. At the last gaming convention I was at, I played the Cthulhu version of Pandemic.
Huh.
And yeah, it's just the monsters were popping out of the deck so fast that there was no way we could respond to them quick enough. So we weren't even a third of the way through the deck before the board was just so infested that we didn't stand a chance.
To answer Being Mindful 71's question, I don't know why Lavender's last stream was removed, because YouTube never tells you what you did wrong, like, ever. If something happened, they just don't tell you. The hypothesis is that we said a few things about some prominent politicians and which ones we hoped would get the plague and die. But I mean, it's not like we were making any actual threats. We were just saying, in an ideal world, this person would take it in the neck. But I don't know. I mean, I can only assume that's why.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because it's like, it disappeared midstream, which I'd never seen before,
Neither had I.
and it's not like anybody was like swearing or anything when it happened.
No, I don't know. But YouTube's algorithm is kind of fucked anyway. They don't.
Yeah.
But I saw a video recently from their staff, and they're about to implement something that I think could be useful. The problem is that they're not rolling it out to everybody at once. And basically, what it is allowing video creators to self-censor or to self-classify their videos, where it's like you can say, yes, I'm following the community guidelines, and they'll give you the benefit of the doubt, unless you start like violating it rather blatantly, in which case they'll probably remove your ability to self-classify. But it does sound like something they're eventually going to roll out, and I'm looking forward to it quite a bit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm sure they'll handle it very badly. They always do.
Yes, they always do.
Well, it's one of my stories. My channel was deleted twice before I uploaded my first video.
Really?
Yeah. And again, no explanation. All I got were
Mm.
generic form letters and no indication any human ever looked at the situation.
Well, don't get me started about that with regard to Facebook. I mean, at least YouTube is a little bit better.
Yeah, I know Facebook put you in timeout a couple of times.
And for no good fucking reason. This most recent time, they reinstated the post that had been flagged by their algorithm, but didn't lift the block. So I've been off of Facebook for a friggin' month for something I didn't even do. And their I want to dispute my block system is broken. Like you tell them, oh, here's my reason why you got this decision wrong, why I shouldn't be blocked. And you click it and it says, we couldn't process your request, try again later. And it says that constantly. There's just like, it's never not broken. So, I mean, and it's not like you can contact a human with like there is actually a creator to YouTube chat if you want it. Like you can't like contact them by voice, but you can definitely chat with them. You can't get a human at all when it comes to Facebook.
Yeah.
So
I haven't run into problems with Facebook, mostly just because I really don't use it that much anymore. And I guess I never put anything up there that anybody found significantly offensive.
Well, Facebook is one of my best ways to communicate with certain people. So
yeah. Well, and also you've got a lot more people on there who are following you. So,
well,
for mine, it was pretty much just people who knew me personally. So if I hadn't pissed them off already, they weren't likely to report me for anything.
Well, that's the thing is I got auto-reported for something, and that like no human reported it. Their algorithm decided it was offensive, but which it wasn't, and they said so. It just, don't get me fucking started. But yeah, I mean, there's just certain people, like not necessarily even followers from YouTube, just folks I know in person from Seattle. When I lived there, it's my only way to contact them, and I can't.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you're having lag with your webcam or what, but it's looking like your audio and video are slightly out of sync.
Well, that's to be expected. That's what has been happening this whole time.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that your mouth movements are not matching your words.
And that's the thing is it looks fine on my end, just the way it looks fine when I'm recording video, but the actual file that gets recorded is totally fucked. And I don't know why. That's the problem. I don't know how to fix it. Like it seems completely random.
Well, that sounds like it would be a software issue. if the sync is off.
There's nothing I can do about it. But that's the thing. It can't be a software issue, because if it's happening here and it's happening in my webcam software that I used to record, it's clearly a hardware issue.
Yeah, I'm not that good with the technical side of computers, so.
Well, I'm not great with it either, but just process of elimination would say.
Yeah. Well, and I guess, you know, you also have what they sometimes refer to as the firmware, that it could be the software that's on a chip inside the camera.
Well, this is one of the reasons I've put a new webcam on my Amazon wish list. I might just buy it myself at this point, because honestly, I can't even make money now. I can't make my videos.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, you're dependent on it for your income.
I mean, I've been spending way too much money lately on various things, like, you know, a new kitten. But at this point, I have to have it, or I'll have even less money. Wish it wasn't about money. That's the thing, is like, I've been enjoying making YouTube stuff less and less and less. And part of it is certain elements of the community, but part of it is just, man, I'm getting tired of doing the same things over and over and over. Because the religious don't have new arguments, and they probably never will. So, I mean, I don't know. But I don't really know if employers would look at 10 years of YouTube and go, yeah, we want to hire you. So I feel a little trapped.
Yeah, I think that is still a problem these days, that most of them, you know, won't see it as something serious. And actually, if you have any idea how hard it is to make money online, that should be seen as an accomplishment, that you could support yourself on it for any period of time.
Although the only reason I can support myself on it right now is because I'm not paying rent or medical bills.
Yeah.
And I could go into why, but I've said it before, so.
Yeah. Robert X is saying, why not make a movie? A movie on what? But Nerdy was asking if you have another PC to test it with.
I do, actually, but it doesn't have the same webcam software loaded onto it. So I don't know how testable that is.
Well, that's how I found out that my problem's something in my PC, that it doesn't recognize when the webcam's plugged into it. But I tested the webcam with an old laptop, and it worked on the laptop. Well, so it's definitely something internal to the PC.
Well, but that's another thing, is that this webcam. Oh, I had something, I lost it. Oh, well. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. This webcam occasionally just works fine. You know, like this is a very intermittent problem. So, I don't know.
Omega Nut said something that you can resync it, but it's an extra step. I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, me neither. As to what Robert X said, why not make a movie? Well, I'm trying, but one of my voice actors dropped out, and I'm having a hard time getting another one. So.
Yeah, I know you'd put a call out for voice actors a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and there's also another part that I haven't cast, but it's only 3 lines, and it's pretty far into the script, so I'm not exactly, worried about it very much. Like I should be able to convince somebody to help me out.
Yeah, I think at some point that would be cool if I could find some people willing to voice the characters. I'd actually considered with my novel about skipping the print or even the ebook version altogether and just going right to producing it as an audiobook, something more like a radio play.
Well, I'll tell you this much. I, at least, do not go in for the audiobooks. I know they're really popular, But I mean, have you ever watched, say, a movie based on a book and maybe certain words are pronounced differently or characters don't look the way you pictured them or whatever? And I can't help feeling it would be much the same with an audiobook, where like if you read the actual book, the print book,
Yeah.
and you get an idea of what a character might sound like or how they
Yeah.
might talk, their expression, and then you get the audio version, you're like, this doesn't match what I had in my head.
Yeah, if the person voicing it doesn't have the accent you imagine for the character.
Mm-hmm. I mean, goodness knows that Hermione in the Harry Potter movies looked nothing like what I pictured.
Well, no, they did her all wrong, because at least in the first book, part of the plot was that she looked kind of homely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But Hollywood has this idea that the people in movies have to be attractive,
Yeah.
have to be beautiful.
But, well, they could
So,
have even put that in the movie, because with, makeup artists, they could have made her look less attractive at first, and then, it was part of the thing. I don't remember if it was the first or the second book that, like she had a really bad overbite, and that got magically fixed.
and she also had some pretty messy hair too.
Yeah.
And they toned that way the hell down. Have you ever seen The Princess Diaries, that movie?
Long time ago.
Because honestly, before she became a princess, I totally pictured the main character and the sort of frumpy way she looked for Hermione. Like that's what I pictured in my head.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I can see that. And, that was one of my complaints when I first saw the first Harry Potter movie. It's just they made her too cute,
mm-hmm.
and that just didn't fit what the book said.
Yeah. And I mean, they sort of made this token gesture towards, like giving her bad hair, but it was so transparently not. But here,
Yep.
if you let that screen share, this is what I pictured when I was thinking of Hermione, is something like this.
Yeah.
And they totally didn't do it.
Yeah, the out of control hair and that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well.
Yeah, I had also, reading the book, pictured her as like having hair like Weird Al.
Yes, exactly. Oh, well.
Yeah. Be mindful of saying, or if they have a disability or overweight or something. And it's like, yeah, like you say, Hollywood, they think everyone has to be beautiful. And it's like they're fixated basically that on one body type that all women are supposed to be. And, pretty much a little bit looser with men, but, men, it's basically a body type based on the character. That there's like one body type for nerds and one body type for jocks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, in real life, it doesn't go that way. So what's the problem with, having some actors who are overweight, that's just the character. It's not just used for comic relief.
Well, another weird thing I noticed is like, given the genetic proportion of blue and green-eyed people to brown-eyed people, Hollywood has a truly staggering number of blue-eyed and green-eyed people acting. Yeah. It's pretty weird to me that is a thing.
Well,
like, I mean, I guess
them aren't even
it,
that way. That they often, give actors blue contacts if they have the wrong eye color.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, if it's a book that's been made into a movie or a TV show and a character is supposed to have a certain eye color, fine. But if they're saying, no, you have to be blue-eyed to have this role, please.
Yeah, if the book never mentions it, then there's no reason it has to be said a certain way.
Well, and sometimes it's not even a book. Sometimes it's just an original story, but everybody seems to have blue eyes, unless they're like ethnically unable. Like they didn't give blue eyes to the Asian guy. Yeah, you don't really see blue-eyed black people.
Yeah. Don't give them any ideas.
There was that one movie, though, Big Trouble in Little China, where part of the plot point was that the Asian chick had green eyes. Like it was part of some prophecy or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And it was also like the movie Watchmen is supposed to be similar to The Incredibles, even though it came first, not the point. So no one has to point that out. But where they're supposed to be over the hill, dumpy middle-aged people who used to be superheroes, but instead they made them all like, early to late 20s kind of folks.
Okay, I wasn't familiar with the graphic novels for Watchmen before I saw the movie, so.
Well, it's funny. Watchmen, in my never humble opinion, is the most faithful comic book to movie translation I've ever seen. They made like one change at the end that personally I think made the story better. But otherwise, it was about as faithful as a comic to movie translation has ever been, ever. I mean, like if you read the graphic novel of V for Vendetta and then watch the movie, they're like completely different from each other, except that the dude wears the mask and that's it. Like they're so different. But Watchmen was about as close as I've ever seen. And they really did tie the ending up much better.
I've seen a lot of them that, watching the book and watching the movie, it's like, aside from the title, it didn't really seem that whoever wrote the screenplay had even read the book.
I mean, like, okay, I can understand why they made a bunch of changes to Ready Player One, because honestly, like rereading the book after watching the movie, I'm like, they could never have made this interesting on screen. It just wouldn't be possible. But, it would have been nice if they'd been a little more faithful. I don't know. But it was still a great movie. I mean, that's one thing I've advocated for this before. If they are translating something from book or comic form to movie, do not reread the book or even read it for the first time before going to see the movie, because you will hate the movie as a result, because it won't be faithful. I mean, I remembered reading Ready Player One like a decade before the movie came out, and I thought it was great, but I didn't remember all the details. I went and saw the movie, loved the movie, then went back and reread the book after watching the movie and going, wow, this is different. But like going into the movie without the expectations of seeing the book on screen allowed me to enjoy both versions of the story. And like I've done it the other way around and been super disappointed. So
well, yeah, even back to the Harry Potter movies, that I had to disassociate the two because I'd read the books, before they started making the movies, and it was just, you have to accept this as somebody completely different retelling the story they heard, so they didn't really get most of it right.
Yeah, I'm still kind of steamed about Starship Troopers. Like it was a great movie, but I really wish they'd make the book into a movie someday.
Yeah, that was a horrible one. And the weird thing with Starship Troopers is the movie had nothing to do with the book.
I mean, it did a little, but not much.
Yeah, there was an animated series called Roughnecks, the Starship Troopers Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
And the animated series held a lot more, at least to the flavor of the book, than the movie did.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe if they'd made the movie a few years later, they could have had the power armor.
Yeah.
And I respect Paul Verhoeven's vision in a lot of his movies, because he does point out a lot of the flaws in society that we take for granted. And I think that's great. But sometimes he takes it a little too far.
Yeah, well, yeah, Heinlein was big on political commentary.
Well, I mean, my favorite book is Stranger in a Strange Land, and boy, does that hit that pretty hard.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
I'm
it
actually
also
glad they have
basically
not tried. Sorry.
like without naming it, it definitely calls out Scientology as well.
Actually, it was written though before Scientology got started, and
That's not what I heard. The way I understand it, like Scientology, basically began because of a bet between sci-fi writers, and as I
yeah.
understood it, when it started being even a little bit of a thing, Heinlein wrote "Stranger in a Strange Land" to sort of like make a parody of it.
Okay. Well, the way I had heard it is, Heinlein was one of the authors involved in the bet. So, Stranger in a Strange Land was basically, his vision of starting a religion, which it did. There actually is a Church of All Worlds, which has what they call nests, in cities around the world. So it's something that, unless you get into the pagan community, you probably don't hear about it. But there are thousands of groups that follow basically the religion that was set down in that book. But they will acknowledge that it is from a science fiction book, and that any spirituality is more metaphorical. They don't take it as being such a literal thing.
See, I'm trying to look it up and see if I can find the place where like any reference to Scientology and Stranger in a Strange Land to say which came which. Let's see.
Well, I think it's just kind of check the dates. When was Scientology founded?
Yeah. No, I'm not. Well, let's try this here. Let's see. So, Stranger in a Strange
I was just looking that up,
Land.
and it was written in 1961.
Yes, and Scientology. No. Let's see. Go to history of it.
Yeah, okay. Google's claiming Scientology was founded in 1953. So yeah, I guess that the Scientology did precede it by a number of years there.
Let's see. Go back.
I didn't realize that Scientology had been around quite that long. I thought it was founded later in the 60s. Oh yeah, and be mindful, just put that in the side chat, that Scientology was founded in 53 and Stranger in a Strange Land was in 61. So yeah, Scientology preceded it by 7 or 8 years.
I'm not actually seeing anything explicit here about Stranger in a Strange Land and Scientology, but I mean there is really hardly any doubt. Like there's this scene where Michael and I want to say Jill go to this other church that is so Scientology-esque.
Yeah, the church that's got the slot machines in it and everything. Yeah, not remembering that part of the scene, but yeah, like I know what the one you mean.
Fosterites. That's what
the Fosterites. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's try that.
Yeah, and they were.
Science.
And like they had the founder like mummified in a case in the church.
Oh, well, okay. If I'm reading this right, someone says that the Fosterites are basically like Scientology and Mormonism put together.
Okay, I can.
And
I
apparently
can see
Pentecostalism as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently it also borrowed from Freemasonry, Catholicism, communism, Madison Avenue. Yeah. Well, whatevs. I mean, it's not super important, but that was part of the legend of Stranger in a Strange Land that I'd always heard.
Okay. Yeah, well, I had heard the thing about it being, part of a bet about who could start a religion that would get the most followers.
And I mean, that's the funny part to me, is that I've often described Christianity in terms of being like Trekkies, where there was this thing that came out and the fans took it way too seriously and it got way too big for itself. And yeah. The difference being, of course, that Trekkies don't cause problems for other people.
Well, there is the war between the Trekkies and the Star Wars fans, but...
Well, and don't get me started on that. I have to wonder, because you don't notice like Star Trek fans or Star Wars fans calling out Space 1999 or Farscape or Babylon 5. And I have to wonder, if one of them did not have the word star in the title, would that rivalry still exist? Star Wars, Star Trek, if it had been like Space Trek, Space Wars, or if Star Trek had been Going All Explory Space-Wise or some other more serious title, would that rivalry be there? Because I suspect even if it still would, it'd be much smaller.
I think the rivalry more has to do just with the popularity of those two franchises, that, nothing else has quite so many followers.
I don't know. I'm not so sure personally. I mean, you could be right, but I'm not so sure. I suspect that the title's similarities have something to do with it.
I could see that, yeah, for some people, for some of the Trekkies, that they could object to the title being a ripoff, the Star Wars ripping off the title or something.
I don't know. I've never heard anyone object to it that way, like explicitly. I'm not sure everyone even realizes necessarily that they're doing any of this, but I still suspect that the rivalry is at least partially fueled by the similarity in titles.
No, and I'm agreeing with you. I don't think it's something that they're even, that I haven't heard anyone make the argument, or that they're even processing that consciously, but on a subconscious level, that may be bugging some of them.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, whatever.
Humans, what you gonna do?
I mean, I take issue with Trek on certain levels, just because there are certain things I prefer that Trek either doesn't do or does in ways I don't care for. But I mean, I would have those objections anyway, regardless of any other series. But at the same time, I mean, for what it's trying to do, Trek isn't all that bad. I prefer the Orville, but Trek isn't that bad. Like I'd say it's in the positive column if I had to.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with it, so and again, Star Trek, did a lot of social commentary. Actually, one of my favorite stories from the original one was when they were filming the original. Nichelle Nichols went into Roddenberry's office and said, "I see what you're doing here. You're writing morality plays." And he closed the door and said, "Don't tell anyone else."
Yeah, I've never heard that one before, but that's entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a true story or not, or just a legend, but...
Well, I mean, the fact that they named her specifically makes me think it's the truth.
Yeah. Well, and that was the big thing. Whoopi Goldberg, in an interview, said that was one of her inspirations, was that when Star Trek came on, she was a little kid and she was, saw Nichelle Nichols on there and, was shouting out to her mom, "Mommy, there's a black woman on TV and she ain't a maid."
Yes, she's a glorified secretary in space.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I mean, Uhura, as a communications officer, what does she do? She just tells people
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, did she ever have an episode? I don't know. I haven't watched the original series really, hardly at all. Was there ever an episode where she was like the heroine of the episode, where she did anything other than sit on her ass and use a little earpiece at people?
Well, no, but the 60s still was pretty much all the damsel in distress thing. There weren't really, many instances in any TV or movies of, women having a chance to be the one to save the day.
Yeah, that's Mighty Mouse's job. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing some progress now. I look forward to living in a world, if we ever do, where someone's sex, skin color, whatever is completely unremarkable.
Yep.
And I mean, that's something that I've had to explain even to equality advocates, is that the idea is not necessarily to start shoving people to the forefront, but rather to make it so we don't have to.
Yeah, that when you're meeting someone, that those are things that you don't make judgments about.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's somebody that, if you don't see how they physically look when you meet them, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything of what you think about them.
Yeah, I was actually, I'll say, of two minds about it when I watched the recent presidential debate, Democrat debate, where they asked, would you choose a female vice president? And Biden just said yes. Bernie said yes, as long as we agree politically, is essentially what he said. And a lot of people tried to get on him about that.
Mhm.
But personally, I think it's a sign of integrity to put values ahead of vaginas,
Yep.
And there's plenty of progressive female candidates out there where he can choose someone and she wouldn't just be a token, where she wouldn't just be there to soothe those who desperately want more important female politicians, where she'd actually be a real vice president regardless of her naughty bits. And that to me is respectable.
I agree. That just, picking somebody as a running mate just because they're a minority is just pandering.
Well, yeah, Amiga Nuts, Gwen was sort of a parody of Uhura, where she's like, I'm doing it. I'm repeating the computer. It's like, yeah, that really was her only job on the show.
Yeah, I was thinking of that when you were saying it.
Yeah.
Galaxy Quest is kind of a special thing for me because it was one of the times when I first bonded with one of my stepdaughters.
Oh.
Was we had there was an old movie theater by us that they would do sci-fi movie nights where they would run old movies. So I took her to see Galaxy Quest on the big screen there.
It's hard to believe that's an older movie,
So
but
okay.
Fun,
well, the thing is,
I know.
Yeah, the thing is, it was like, every Wednesday night, the movie was run by a group that organized a science fiction convention that the owner, let them run the theater and keep the concession proceeds to help support the convention.
Well, I had this one joke that I've been telling for years, and I'm incorporating it into a webcomic I'm developing, where it's basically that history class is unfair because we just keep making more of it. Eventually, school will be nothing but history class. And it's the same thing with like an oldies music station. How far back, like eventually everything is going to be oldies except for this little slice of new. So at one point, is it no longer oldies, or like does it go from oldies to classic? I mean, how do you classify that? It all comes down to being subjective, I think, to personal judgment and when you were born, probably. So.
No, yeah, I've heard you, comment on that before, and yeah, that is something I've seen with the music, at what point is it considered classic and just oldies? And, it's like stations sometimes have to identify as a particular decade.
Mm-hmm. There are definitely 80s stations out there about
Yeah.
which I'm quite pleased. I loves my the 80s, I does.
Of course, that was one thing I got a lot of mileage out of was, around in the early 2000s, that there was that 70s retro craze.
Mm-hmm. And I was
So,
desperately waiting for the 80s version to come around.
yeah. So my stepdaughters couldn't say that my music sucked because they were listening to the same thing I had listened to when I was in high school.
Yeah. There's a YouTube channel that I'm subscribed to called New Retro Wave, and it's all like 80s new wave, synth rock, all of that stuff. And there have been some songs on there where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got transported back to my childhood. This song is new, but man, does it feel like I'm back in 5th grade.
Yeah. You were saying you were waiting for the 80s thing to come back around, and yeah, in the early 2000s when they did that, they said it was 70s retro, but it actually was more like about, mid 70s to mid 80s.
I didn't notice the mid 80s part. I mean, I tried watching the that 70s show. It was okay, I guess, but I never saw them get into like the neon and chrome of the 80s. It was always those earth tones of the 70s.
Yeah. Well, they definitely focused more on that. They did get a little bit into the disco era, which is in the early 80s.
Oh, I hate disco so much. Oh, I hate disco.
Yeah, I think everybody does it. And I think that's part of why we didn't really get the 80s comeback was because nobody wanted to do disco again.
See, I always still think of disco as the 70s, though. I don't think of it as 80s.
Well, again, it was late 70s, early 80s was when it really peaked.
Really? I mean, I still think of it as dying in the 80s.
Yeah. And again, I could be off. I'm not very good at, as far as dates, what my perception is of things.
But
at a certain point, you get old and the decades kind of blur together.
I don't know. For me, I guess it's just because there was such a stark difference between the 80s and the 90s that I feel like I can compartmentalize my decades a lot better.
Yeah.
Because, the 80s was bright and cheerful in terms of pop culture. And then the 90s was all like depressing and counterculture and everything. And it was, I don't know. I mean, you remember all the repeat suicides after Kurt Cobain offed himself?
No, not really.
Well, I do. And I remember everyone walking around in drab-ass flannel and just, I did not enjoy my high school years or my college years.
Yeah, I could have done without high school for the most part myself, but
well, I just
was
mean
also
pop culturally. The
Yeah.
actual school itself is a separate matter, although I still feel similarly that I could have done without it.
Yeah.
Although it was in high school that I first got started on animation, so.
Well, and there's always that thing that, who you are now is kind of the total of your experiences. So you couldn't really go back in time and change one event without changing a whole bunch of things that cascade from that.
Well, who's to say those changes wouldn't be a net positive?
Well, you really don't know because you really can't calculate how many things would be changed.
I do know that if I had never moved to Seattle, there are a lot of things in my life that would have been different, more difficult, less pleasant. So, although I have to admit, the 5 years I spent with one of my now exes when I moved to Seattle, I could have done without. But if I hadn't gotten together with her, I never would have moved to Seattle.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to geese anyway?
Oh, I don't know. I I can't really define it, but I expect an example of it is sitting on your porch screaming, "Get off my lawn."
I mean, I guess, but I would have thought that it would be something to do with breathing. Maybe because it sounds like wheeze, as you know, geese,
Yeah.
wheeze, geezer, wheezer. I don't know. It just.
Okay, we'll go with that. It's when you scream at the kids and it leaves you, short on breath, so you're wheezing.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, this is weird.
what's that?
Well, I'm looking it up, and it says here the origin of geezer is an interesting one. It appears to derive from the now obsolete term geyser, meaning someone who walks around in disguise, a performer in a masquerade. Now, granted, yes, geezer in in the UK seems to mean just bloke, like a person. It's not an old geezer like it is here, I guess. But it doesn't really say why it means like old guy.
Yeah, I don't see how it would have logically evolved from that. So Sloth Girl has just returned from her foraging triumphantly that she actually found loaves of bread.
Upload a few of those to me, would you?
Because there's no yeast to be found either.
Oh, yeah, she's saying she can't even bake her own now because she can't get any yeast.
Oy. And my brain just went somewhere really horrible about where to get yeast, but never mind.
Yeah, I've seen things on the internet about that, so we don't need to go there.
But I'm almost out of English muffins.
Yep.
Maybe we'll limit 5 loaves on the bread, though.
Yeah, and stores are limiting stuff. That
3 gallons of water, 5 loaves of bread.
Oh yeah. I have some imagery of like the sign outside of Ralph's that said you're limited to 2 of these essential products per household, per customer. It's like, wow, really? It's okay. Even despite the only 2 of this, that, or the other thing, the shelves are still empty of them.
Yep. Yeah, I had seen that too, especially the toilet paper and the paper goods. That last week they were limiting those to 1 or 2 packs per person, but there still wasn't any in there.
And you certainly can't get any of that stuff off of Amazon.
I still couldn't find any.
Yeah, I still couldn't find any toilet paper.
Yeah.
Guy said the Cobras in Sock Rapids has some, but I'm not going over there.
Yeah, I'd be gone by the time you get there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You guys gotta be there when the truck's unloading, or fuck you.
Yeah. I don't know. I figure sooner or later I'll probably run into it because it's one of the advantages. Of course, I haven't found any stores here that are open 24 hours yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
That was one thing that kind of surprised me, actually, is that like the QFC in Seattle was open 24/7, but here Ralph's closes at like 1 a.m. And yet they're both Kroger stores.
Yeah.
They closed at 11. They used to be 24 hours when I went to.
Yeah, because I used to, like to go and do my grocery shopping at like 2 in the morning when the only people in the store beside me were the employees stocking the shelves. 1, I really didn't have to talk to anyone. 2, if I actually couldn't find something, it was easy to find an employee. And I found some good stuff that way. Actually, that's how we got our big TVs.
Really?
Yeah, was that I was in Walmart and it was after midnight, so they had the time to be doing things that they were cleaning out the stock room because they were getting the new stuff in. And they brought out this pallet of 50-inch TVs that had like an inch of dust on it because it'd been sitting back there so long. So apparently the manager had just said to, clear them out of there so they had room for the new stuff. and we got 50-inch TVs for $99 each.
Wow. Okay. Not bad. I've got a bit of a monster television I'm using as a third monitor right now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was used to doing. I just had my computer hooked up to the big TV, and so I could sit in the recliner with the keyboard in my lap.
I actually have 4 monitors on my desk and a TV up on the wall, and it's still not enough for all of my computers.
Yeah. Well, that's part of why haven't really got my own apartment set up so much, because I've still been designing the shelving and the desk units that I'm going to build, and then since I've got the opportunity to start from scratch, I'll actually be able to, have the 2 monitors. I never had a place to put a second monitor before.
Hmm. You know what's actually
I ran into that problem too.
Deeply frustrating is that there are a bunch of games on Steam that I'd love to try that claim to be free to play, but it turns out that what's actually free is the front end client, but you have to buy all of the content to be able to play anything at all. It just seems a little dishonest.
Yeah, again, that's one of the things that had put me off of a lot of video games, was that they say they're free to play, but then you wind up, having to put money into it in order to, have any of the stuff you need to really complete a quest or whatever.
Oh, but this isn't even that. This is like, oh yeah, you can browse all of the available bits of like levels and shit, but you have to buy every last one of them. So really all you did get for free was the client that lets you browse what you can buy.
Yeah, I agree with you. That seems quite dishonest. That they're misrepresenting it. If all you can do is browse and you can't actually, get into any of the activities.
Yeah, I mean, not that I should expect to get anything for free, but if you say it's free, I'd like to be able to take you at your word.
Well, it should at least be, some level of free trial.
Yeah.
You expect when they say it's free, that's going to be a stripped down version, but you expect you can at least get in there and experience the game mechanics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know, like none of the games on my wish list are currently on sale.
Yeah, they probably won't be doing many sales now since they know everybody's kind of cooped up at home.
Oh, no, there's a bunch of sales. Plus, I mean, yeah, they could be greedy like that. On the other hand, they could decide to get a bigger return by, like, okay, we've priced everything down to sell more of it at once. You know what I mean? I mean, like right now, I'm looking at this game. It's like, what, $39 or $59.99? No, it's $39.99, but it's 80% off, so it's $7.99. So, I mean, that's a thing. I did recently try putting BioShock on my computer. Actually, it was the remastered version. And while the concept was interesting, the actual combat system seemed really weird, and I didn't care for it, so I took it off.
Yeah, I'm kind of out of it because, like I say, I just prefer actual tabletop games, and since nobody's doing anything face to face.
Yeah, well, that's one of the appeals, I would say, of video games at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Well, self-quarantine. Well, what you gonna do? mean, I have enough of everything right now that I can just bunker up for a while. The only thing I don't have is like hot chocolate mix or something.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, how I feel that we've got enough stuff, enough, canned food and frozen stuff that if we had to, we could probably make it through a month without going out. We wouldn't necessarily have what we want to eat, but we wouldn't really go hungry.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Finding canned goods was another thing that was impossible. I went looking for SpaghettiOs and chili, and all I could find was one can of SpaghettiOs with Franks.
Mhm. Yeah, well, for us, it's pretty much just stuff we normally stock, so didn't really care too much about the canned stuff that we already had on hand. Like I say, it was just the perishable stuff, the stuff we had to refrigerate, especially like, getting a produce.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, man, I have some pork sitting in the fridge because I was making Chinese pork fried rice with it, and I should probably eat it soon, just so it doesn't go bad.
Yeah. Yeah, Orla's saying people's income will be suffering and price gouging is going to be a thing.
Well, they've been talking about implementing a UBI, maybe.
I had heard that about giving each person $1,000, and I wasn't quite clear about how many people were endorsing that. And is it just a one-time thing?
That one's on the table. It might be one-time thing, might be a month or every month. I mean,
yeah, because I can really see that a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck, that if the place they work at is closed down for a couple of weeks, how are they going to pay their basic expenses?
I don't know.
So, yeah, again, it's something that, of course, the people on the bottom are going to be the ones who are screwed.
Naturally.
Yeah, the people who, can afford to keep thousands of dollars in the bank, can kind of surf through it, and they'll complain because they'll think that they're hurting really bad, but they won't really have a concept of what it's like to actually be doing without something that's an actual necessity. Yeah, Sloth Girl's mentioning that they are saying that people who are, who their businesses that have closed are eligible for temporary unemployment now. But even the unemployment, that's based on that you had a regular job, and I don't know if that even applies to people who are working part-time jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, she said it does apply with part-time jobs, which would be different because, yeah, normally unemployment doesn't cover that. Because, yeah, the biggest one, is a lot of restaurants and that are closing. So,
yeah,
it's mostly the cooks and servers that are going to be out on that one.
Well, what's funny is how many like preachers out there are saying, do this, do that, do the other thing. Don't change your life whatsoever because of coronavirus.
Yep.
People are saying, go to a restaurant, have fun, go to our congregation, everyone hug each other, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm just sitting here thinking, you know what? If they're going to commit suicide by virus, who am I to stop them?
Well, and there was one church, I forget which one it was, I heard about this the other night, that the church felt it was the responsible thing to close until this is passed. But then somebody in the church organized a prayer circle in the community square.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, so because your church officials thought it was a good idea for people not to get too close to each other in the church, you're going to go out and do this in public where you can infect even more people.
Well, but I mean, that's the thing. If everyone else is bunkered up and it's just them.
Yeah.
I don't know. One thing I think is kind of funny. No one has mentioned the term typhoid Mary yet, but I'm sure there is someone who thinks it's funny. Like if they have coronavirus and they like sneeze into their hands and go into a store and rub everything,
Mhm.
you know, I guarantee there's someone who thinks that's hilarious.
Well, there have been some religious groups I know have actually been promoting it. You know, as far as that it should go out and be spread, and that the faithful will, of course, be saved.
Mm. Well,
You know,
either that or we'll bring about the apocalypse, which is what their goal always seems to be, is to end the world.
yeah. Well,
People be
I've had a
dumb.
problem going out in public just because my allergies are chronic sinus problems, and you know, I basically what sounds like a smoker's hacking cough. You
Wow.
know, so it's like, yeah, no, I'm not infected with anything. I sound this way about 50 weeks out of the year.
Here's an idea. Let's take the sarcastic 9-ball and ask it, 9-ball, will I survive the coronavirus? And it says, obviously. Oh, okay then.
Well, at least it's optimistic for you.
Yeah. I'm surprised it didn't say, well, duh, actually. Yeah, I shook it again. It says, not in a million years. Gotta love the sarcastic 9-ball.
Yeah. Well, I see. I'm not worried about any of these things because I took a test on the internet that said I will be the last man on Earth. And of course, you know, it's on the internet. It must be true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The internet wouldn't lie to you.
Yep. So I'm going to survive everything.
Man. I don't know. I've been tempted to just try to sleep through most of it. I actually am quite tired just because breaking in the new kitten required a lot of like sleepless nights to keep him company while he was in an enclosure to make sure that Columbia didn't murder him. And well, I haven't quite caught up yet. So
Well, yeah, I remember that when we got Guapo, that you know, being away from his litter mates the first couple of nights, he just cried constantly because he was used to sleeping in a pile with his siblings.
Actually, I haven't heard either Columbia or Xander making a fuss. I wonder if they're both sleeping or one of them has killed the other. I don't know. It has been kind of nice, though, sleeping in a bed with more than just one cat present.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Well, when I lived with my fiance, she had the two cats before I moved in with her, and you know, after about 2 years, it wound up being that one cat would be sleeping on her and one cat would be sleeping on me.
Well, so far it seems like Columbia will sleep here and Xander will sleep on the other side down by my thigh. That's the way it's been so far, but I've had him less than a week, so... Or has it been less than a week? Gosh, when did I get him? What day? Might have been a Tuesday. I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, and that was basically the arrangement when I first got Sammy-san, that he would sleep up against my chest and my other cat would sleep, you know, in the crook of my knees behind me, because as long as I was kind of a wall between them, they didn't have to acknowledge they were on the same bed.
Yeah. Wow, that is a lot of notifications I didn't see. I'm trying to get to the part where on Twitter where because I have the pictures, like the first pictures I posted of Xander, and that'll tell me what day I got him because I do not remember. Let's see.
Yeah, like I say, for me, it's a matter of do I even remember what year anything happened? So,
let's see. It looks like it might have been the 12th. Yes, it was the 12th that I got him, which would make it just under a week. Total, I mean. You could call it a week now. Because, like, I got him on a Thursday. Today's Wednesday.
yeah.
Depends how you count it. All right, I've been asking people online, like, what do you do when you run out of toilet paper and the stores are still out? Someone's like, how about ordering it online? I'm like, yeah, like I haven't tried that already.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's not that big a deal because worst case scenario, you're already in the bathroom. So you just take off your clothes and use the shower head.
Yeah, the shower head I have isn't detachable.
I said it was a worst case scenario.
Yeah, well.
Huh? Oh, about if you're out of toilet paper and still can't get any at the stores. Yeah. Yeah, actually they are saying that the sale of bidets is way up. So that could be a positive thing if it finally gets Americans to adopt bidets as being a normal thing.
I remember the first time I saw a bidet, I was so confused. I mean, I was 4.
Yeah. I've never understood why they're so popular in Europe and they are so rare in America. But
well, I mean, unless the water comes out with a certain amount of pressure, can you really use it to wash your ass?
Yeah. Sloth Girl's saying they're like roundabouts that no one in America understands how to use them.
Actually, it's weird. Like, I don't know if I'm like my memory is faulty on this one or if they've been recently installed, but it seems like roundabouts, like the state of Vermont is lousy with them. They're everywhere. Yes, the 3 seashells joke. That's actually getting quite old. I do love Demolition Man, but at this point, the 3 seashells joke has played itself out for the coronavirus.
I don't get the 3 seashells reference.
You've never seen Demolition Man, I take it.
Again, it was years ago, and I think I didn't so much watch it as it was kind of playing in the background while I was doing something else.
Oh, absolutely brilliant movie. I adore the hell out of it. But basically, when Stallone is released from his like suspended animation confinement thingy, it's the future. And he goes to the bathroom and he can't find the toilet paper, and everyone starts laughing at him. And he's like, I'm happy you're happy, but where the toilet paper is supposed to be, there were these 3 seashells, and they're laughing at him and like, oh, he doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells. Ah, ha, 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 ha. And he gives him a look, and the guy's like, I can see how that might be confusing. And, I'll be over here kind of thing. So that's the joke, is that the 3 seashells are how you wipe your ass in the future, but no one, it's not obvious how they're used.
Yeah. It's a cultural thing that needs to be explained to someone who's new.
There are websites that tell you how to use them, and it looks essentially like they're a cross between chopsticks and an ice cream scoop, which is really gross. But yeah, it's never actually explained in the movie. I'm just saying.
Yep, I get you now.
Well, I'm tempted to go have lunch and then try once more to make this video I was trying to make. So I will catch you later.
Yeah. Well, we've been going 2 hours here, so it's probably a good point to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So
Well,
thanks
have
for
fun,
coming.
stay safe, stay healthy, you know?
So hopefully you'll have a new video finished soon.
Hopefully, if I can get my hardware to cooperate with me.
Okay. You got anything else going on that you want to plug?
Just that webcomic I'm working on. I have, what is it, like 20 of them made so far, and they're really easy to make, so it's coming soon. You know, just if I can get a good buffer so that if I run out of ideas or need inspiration or a break or something, I can take a day or two off, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
anyway.
And then I expect Sunday you've basically become Diana's co-host on the Coffee with Lavender.
It does seem to have happened, yes. So I am likely to join you if you're around for Sunday, any of yous. Yeah. So have fun, storming the castle. Catch you
All
later.
right. Yep, we'll catch you later. Okay, and my voice is going here, so it's a good time for me to be going out too. So thank you everybody for coming. I'll be doing my midnight show tomorrow night. Other than that, I'm still too preoccupied with, getting furniture built, and yeah, it would be a lot quicker to get my apartment set up if I was a normal person who actually went out and bought furniture, but I don't. I go out and buy materials and I build my furniture. So I'm, building everything custom to fit the spaces. So that's going to take a bit longer. So, although one of the things on my list is I've got to try to contact the cable company to get the cable set up in my own apartment so I can start doing my broadcast down there. And especially the midnight broadcast that I'm not keeping Sloth Girl up. So, thanks everybody. We'll see you later on. Bye-bye.